And here we go. Let's hope that we've got it. Okay. And there we are. Fantabulous. Welcome, welcome,
Hey,
welcome,
everybody.
everybody. Great to see you. We are at now episode 24 of the podcast Unlimited Wisdom with
I
Robert
think we might
Hollis.
be getting some reverb.
Are we? I don't hear any.
I don't hear
Oh,
any.
my bad. Go ahead,
Okay.
Craig. Sorry.
All right. Take two. No problem. That's why we do this live. Welcome to episode 24 of the podcast Unlimited Wisdom with Robert Hollis. I'm Craig A. Jackman along with Matt Hollis, and we are so glad to have you with us today. And before we get started, just want to say thank you for joining us, for hitting the subscribe button so that you get notified when we do our podcasts, and hit the like button also, as well as share, so you can share this podcast with those that have ears to hear. And I would very much like to now welcome Robert Hollis and Matt Hollis. Guys, welcome. Episode
Craig.
24 is now on its way. Let's do this.
Hi, Craig. Hi, man.
Thanks,
How
Craig.
you guys doing?
Thanks for the intro. Doing great. Doing great.
Awesome.
Just been, I know we were just like kicking around ideas and topics for this, but like, man, I'm just excited. Like I'm ecstatic and excited, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Because
Things today.
as you said,
are,
unrealistic expectations
Yeah.
is kind of the topic we were kicking
Yeah.
around. for
Yeah.
this, so
today is like, I love that little song out there by that, today is going to be a good day. I mean, from the time that I got up, my NVIDIA stock is flying. I got paid another commissions on Bitcoin.
how much are you up to on that now? With the Bitcoin
My
stuff?
Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are just from Trade X Mastery, so that's been in the last week.
Oh, wow.
not
For
not
one
bad.
week,
money.
that's
Yeah,
incredible.
not bad. Not bad. I do know one thing. I do know how to make money.
I think that's why people have a tendency to follow you.
Yeah,
Robert.
and
I
then-
mean, besides other things, of course.
And then, of course, Hannah told me to buy NVIDIA stock, and I told everybody about it, but then I did one thing that I'm sure not most people did, and that was daily cost averaging of $50 a day during trading. So it's about $1,000. So, so since Hannah told me to get involved a little over 3 months ago, that's pretty nice. That's not bad,
Yeah.
especially for a white guy from Montana. And it's like,
Figured it out,
and then unrealistic expectations. I mean, that we could jump from there because, Craig sending me messages saying, what our YouTube videos are doing. And we got one almost crushing 5,000 views. And
Oh my gosh,
And,
it's great.
yeah, just through that email and the incredible stuff that Matt puts online. I've signed 16 people personally. So every time we get on there, it's like 10, and then it's 14, and then it's 16. And so I woke up this morning and 2 new people
Even
came
got
in.
me yesterday. You got me
Oh,
yesterday
That's
morning.
got
right.
you.
You came on board.
Hey, listen, you're in the right place when Matthew and Craig both go, okay,
Right.
I can even, we're always real on the podcast. And Matt said, I said, so what do you want to do? And he goes, well, me and Hannah discussed it. We're on Robert's hype train. We're
Right. Yeah. Well, I feel like it's normally like I take an approach of like just assisting in the areas that I can and building stuff around that. And it's not like I didn't do that yesterday, but the overwhelming amount of people like posting their wins and their excitement in that group too. It's interesting because it's like yesterday we did the inner circle and we had some people going like, I have FOMO, you know what I mean? And I think that's
Yes.
one of those things is when you're in a space where you got that kind of like fear of like watching everyone like leave you behind.
yeah.
Right. And I think even in
Yeah.
our little communities and the communities that we continue to grow and grow, little and big, right?
Right.
Everybody's like hopping on and trying this out and doing it in those communities.
And
So
here's
it's almost
where
like, if you don't do it, you're not part of
Yeah.
the group thought at the time. And I love being part of that.
Yeah,
So
and just like you said, so there was a couple of people that have already posted in completion of this challenge they're doing, right? And so Tiffany was one of them. I think that's what her name was. And so I just love asking questions, right? And so let me go back and I'll tell you exactly because I want to give her a shout out. Oh, Tanya Laverde, Lavergne.
Laverne or Lavernia.
Yeah. And so she's been in NDC for a long time. And she's seen this in June. She jumped in it and she, got phase one of the challenge. And I just, I reached out to her and I said, "Are you a trader?" "No." "Do you know anything about trading?" "No." So someone posts a certificate showing they won phase one, but no one knows that she started in June. And it's like, I'm not got my face one yet. There's something wrong. And so I did a video today to try to calm some of that. And this is like I'm learning. I've been in this a couple of weeks, right? And everyone's going, why do we have to go to a cautious community? It's just so noisy. There's so much stuff. And so I took my time to click on there and look at every thread. And one of the threads said, tap and trade. I clicked it. A post was posted at the top from Jenna. I clicked on it and it took me to another channel that does nothing but just signals. You can't respond. You can't ask questions. You can't do anything. And I go, well, first of all, this is pretty damn funny. I did a video on our YouTube today because I had it muted. So I'm sure they created it when they created Akashics a few years ago. And I went, I don't understand anything here. So I muted it. So then I unmuted it. And then I went in that chat and I put, in the search, tap and trade. And I just put the word tap. And all the tap and trades alerts were there. And I started going through them one at a time. And the last one I got was Monday morning at 6 a.m. And that was the last one that Javid did. And so now everybody's like, okay, so I just hooked everything up. Oh, here's another one, unrealistic expectations. So I reached out to customer service and asked them how I could help them, right? And she said, listen to this. Had over 1,500 people signed up, and 90% of the people have not gone to Trade X Mastery and put their email in.
that doesn't surprise me, having worked in the back end of that stuff. I mean, how many people here, myself included, have bought books or courses that you've never gone through or read because you've like made the decision mentally that like I'm gonna commit time and energy to bettering myself or learning a new skill. And I think trading has always been one of those skills that people know if like you take the time to learn it, that it's like such an end game skill, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Easy. It's not the easiest to get down, which is why I think there's kind of that barrier there, although that's getting better. Hard to master, obviously, but at the same time, there's kind of no end to it, right? Like
Right.
when I talk about even like I've had people ask me, where do you think trading is going to be in 5 years? Because I think so much in terms of AI and AGI and some of these other things that are coming about, because that's where I work mostly. And because that's the case, it's like I really can see trading going and becoming even bigger because of the instinctual elements of us in betting. And a lot of it's interesting because like I see Forex trading, right?
Right.
What backs the US dollar?
Gold.
How do you
Oh,
know that?
Oh, air.
well, it's supposed to be gold, but we got off the gold
Right.
standard years ago.
It's
That was
not
the
on the gold
problem.
standard, right? So it's
It's
speculative
air, like
wealth.
you said.
Ones and
Speculative,
zero.
right?
But it's exactly the same thing that backs Bitcoin, right?
Well, that's what I'm getting to. What I'm going to say
Please, I'm
is
sorry.
that no problem. It is that a lot of this stuff is speculative already. When you
Yeah.
look at Tesla stock and how much it's worth, it's not based off of profits. A lot of it's based off of speculative wealth of the company Tesla. There's other companies that work this way. Some are based off of the profit that they actually make, and some are speculated to make more. Nvidia is also one of those, right? They've made a lot of money, so there's a lot of profit behind them, but they're also speculated to make a lot more as they start rolling out a lot of their new stuff. So I could see stocks continuing to grow because in a lot of ways it's just speculative betting, and the more you know, like a Texas Hold'em game or blackjack, the better you're going to play. You know what I mean? And I think like that's the thing, is that the market's going to continue to grow. There's going to be AI based companies. There's going to be things churning, and there's going to be just like sports betting or any other elements of betting that have existed. I think that that will still exist for humans, and it'll become more of a thing.
Yeah, because it's just a lot of people like to be challenged. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they do.
I remember in one of the chats is one girl, I think Craig, yeah, again, I want to give you so much kudos. It's like I know when Matt was talking about doing some stuff with YouTube, you know, and Craig for just a millisecond said, well, if Matt's taking over the shorts, what am I going to do? And then next thing we know, we're in wide open momentum with a Telegram group, and I'm going like, Craig needs a raise, man.
Right.
I feel like
Thank you. I mean, but
feel
you know
like
what? We
Craig's
do what
doing
we need
more
to
with
do.
the Telegram thing than he did with the YouTube.
Well, I think that just is a testament to how great the people we surround ourselves are.
Yeah.
You know, I agree, Craig. You know, like, and that is similar where it's like, okay, I want to be more of a part of this because I can see that there's a lot of growth happening there and a lot of excitement. And I mean, you've said this before, Dad, but have you ever seen anything with this much momentum? At least not in the last 5 years or
I would
something
say
along
in
those
the
lines?
last, of course,
Maybe AI, like if the whole company was based
well,
off AI,
yeah, I
right?
can say that, you know, I've been blessed over 37 years to catch some pretty crazy trends. Golly, when we got in, you know, from the beginning, I've always caught trends. In fact, if when I did live presentations, I talk about that. You know, so there was an election happen in the late 80s. You know, all of a sudden, one of the independents, like Kennedy is now, was Ralph Nader. And he was as an independent. And here's a consumer advocate, and he did a study on all the cities in the United States, and it came out on Newsweek, Time, People on the cover that not one major city in the United States over $100,000 passed the water quality test. And so there, you couldn't.
You need to redo one of
There
those because I
wasn't
bet you there's some
Walmart.
that
There
wouldn't
wasn't
now.
Walmart. I mean, there wasn't. I'm sorry, Lowe's or Home Depot. This is way before these, right? Maybe Ace, but the thought of going and buying a water filter was like, what do I call it? The Colligan? You know what I mean? And so just in that trend, I'm knocking on people's doors or telling them, I say, listen, you know, I got a water filter for $179 that will take all the chemicals out of your water. And it's like, can I? And it was easy for me to even talk to adults, you know, because they go, well, you know, my dad and my grandpa drink tap water. And I go, listen, you can kill yourself, but please don't do that to your pets and your kids. And people went, that sucks.
Yeah.
How much is that?
It definitely changes the
And so-
perspective, but I think people, that's such a great point. You
Talk
know,
about
Yeah,
like,
so it was a trend.
Yeah.
It was a trend, and we were like growing like almost $1 billion in the 4 or 5 years I was with them. And then all of a sudden, just like CBD recently, it's like, you know, it's like, who doesn't have water filters? You know, then people put them in pictures and, you know, rid of water filters. And then it's like, you know, all of a sudden, you know, everyone comes out with a reverse osmosis machine. And it's like right now, if you looked at missing that trend, it's like you can get a water filter anywhere. And technology is even better. So now you can have multiple choices, right? So believe it or not, that's our biggest funny thing was when that happened. Well, that's when Coca-Cola and Pepsi did a thing called bottled water. And Arrowhead, we had stats on Arrowhead where we took a picture of their Arrowhead manufacturing plant in downtown LA. And they were using LA city water. There's no regulations on bottled water, but they couldn't call themselves Arrowhead by law unless 1/100th of the water that they made came from Lake Arrowhead. So you got a bottle and 1/100th in there came from Arrowhead. The rest of it was LA tap water. They didn't even have filtration regulations. So get this. So to say it was a filter, you could run it through a hose and put an athletic sock over the hose, and that's bottled water. And so
You're selling people on water filters right now.
yeah. So Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, Coca-Cola and PepsiCo go, we're not going to miss this trend. If people don't want to drink sodas because they think it's unhealthy, we'll sell them water. You know what I mean? And then right away, all the companies then, Kirkland, so now you go into Target, you go into Walmart, and it's like you can buy Avion, you can buy Life Water. You also can buy Target water and Walmart water. And then you walk into a hotel. Are you okay, Craig? I was like,
oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry.
I said Target water, and he went,
No. Okay. Truth be told, I'm fighting a little bit of a bug.
Oh, that's okay.
It starts with a C, ends with a D, and has a number 19 after it.
Oh, no.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, but thank goodness it's not bad. But, every now and then, El Coffo does come up. So,
yeah,
right.
Excuse me in advance then.
Boy, that would be a night. No, that's a nice transition and right back into unrealistic expectations. I'll let you two. It's like, real, at one time, COVID came out. I just knew that everyone was going to die. There's people who are telling me that there's hundreds of millions of people that are going to die in the United States.
Well, if you don't see my visage right here, you guys keep going, and I'll just kind of go off to the side and control it from over here. All right, guys, go for it.
Does anybody know the truth about really what happened with COVID? Does anybody know?
I mean, it's interesting because it's like one of those things when you ask for like certain thoughts, it's like, does anybody really know the truth of how this happened?
Yeah, it's like still so.
I think it's interesting having had it and stuff. Like I don't think you, Dad, you haven't had it, right?
I just never have been tested whether or not I had it. I have a theory, okay? Because I flew to Budapest, Hungary. I flew to Budapest, Hungary at the end of January that year.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to fly to Paris. I had to fly to Amsterdam. And I was on all these planes flying there and back, hanging out with people. I come all the way back. And to this date, I have never, ever, ever been that sick. It was, and so all of a sudden, February and then March, so 1 month there, and everyone's saying, this thing's going by, and I'm going like, I had it. There's not a doubt in my mind. I was one of the people that brought it back to the United States.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? And it was like,
you're like patient zero.
But no one knew back then what it was, right?
Right.
No.
And I mean, golly, all the crazy symptoms I know were all unique and individual, got different DNA. So everyone had different systems on how it happened and how long it lasted and whether or not. My mom is a 3-time cancer survivor, including brain cancer. And she was in a retirement home, caught COVID, died. So cancer didn't get her, brain cancer didn't get her, but COVID did. So,
right.
And this could, for all we know, this could really be a strain of a flu, which technically a COVID is,
right.
At least what I've read. So it's just another strain of, whatever it is that's out there that affects us.
The expectations are, one, this is BS. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not getting vaccinated. I'm going to walk around without a mask. This is all BS. To, radical of, Terry was really concerned. And so, she's out on the steps, with stuff being delivered and spraying it down and wiping down everything that we got delivered to us, because at one time they were saying, you better wipe down everything that you have. And it's like, listen, you don't want to be stupid. We didn't know what it was, but it's crazy how the unrealistic expectations on both sides to this is nothing but a con job, and to listen, you need to get vaccinated. And Matt and my wife and stuff were going like, listen, if you really believe that your body's powerful, then why not just get vaccinated? Make sure we don't die. And then there's people out there, well, the shot's going to kill you. It's like, okay, so now every person that's died since COVID that got the vaccination, they blame it on the vaccination. You know what I mean? So,
Well, it's
Perry,
funny. It's funny
Perry
about
from
that.
Friends didn't really die from ketamine in his system. He got a COVID vaccination.
Yeah, but it could have also been a combination of all those different things that the vaccination possibly could have triggered, but everybody was in a rush to get the vaccination.
Look
and
I was just
ju-
about ready to say, look how interested Matt is because he was frozen.
Yeah, I'm having OBS problems. Like I said, I don't know why ever since it updated, but my face will be back in a minute.
yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, that's the thing is, when you start off with something, okay, let's say we're at the beginning of that whole thing back, and I do remember it was March of 2020.
Yeah.
That when that whole thing came out, we didn't know what the heck was going on. We didn't
Right.
know what to do. We didn't know how to respond. We only had certain experts from the CDC and other government agencies that are out there to try to protect us, who did what they could to help us minimize whatever the impact was on what this thing is. It wasn't chicken pox. It wasn't measles. It's not a flu-like illness, even though, yeah, it's a flu, but it's something that's completely different than what we've all experienced before. So, yeah, what do? We got to try to figure out what is going to be the best.
You do the best you can. It's like
Exactly.
right now with the I just followed. It's funny that I just noticed the news recently. Terry and I watch Today every morning when we're having a cup of coffee and just waking up. And they came on today, and this is the first time that they showed the chart from inflation, and they're saying how much that it's come down in the last 2 years. And she said, yeah, and she said, but we're a news company, so we have to say that groceries is 20% higher than it was 3 years ago, that utilities are 20% higher.
Yeah, it
that
doesn't stop the price gouging at all.
Yeah, it's like everyone's saying, hey, there's no inflation, but yet, corporate greed or whatever's done is like, the American person. And I remember when I was young and not aware, some people get mad at me when I say this, but no matter what negative thing was happening in my life, it's sort of like, organized religious people. It was like if there was something negative happening in my life, it was the F and fill in the name of the president. Right.
Right.
But when things were going good in my life, I never said, well, this is because this effing president. So people have a tendency of doing that with organized religion. When you're having a good day, it's like, praise the Lord, praise Allah. You're having a bad day, it's like, I don't know. I think it's Craig's fault or Matt's fault. It's someone's fault other than my creator.
Well, look at the what is it? Okay, at the end of the Super Bowl, you have two teams that are playing against each other.
Right.
And the team that wins goes, I thank God that I did this. Well, how do we not know that, the team that lost was like, God, why didn't you help me?
Yeah.
And
it's like people mentally get in a place where they just go, okay, I guess God was just helping this team today.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I don't get or understand. And forgive me for those of you that are of that persuasion, but if God, why does God allow things to happen to certain people and not to other people? If God is this big, omnipotent being that is out for our best interest, does that sound atheistic? Yes, but it's because I don't know.
Yeah.
And
I tell people straight out it's all based on your belief and your faith. And
yes.
and that's it. You know what I mean? It's for everyone out there that studies any kind of organized religion, there's one thing that they constantly goes back to, and that's the aspect that as human beings, other than animals, we get the chance to choose yes or no. They got instincts. We get to say yes or no. So it's like if negative things happen to you because you're driving down a freeway and a drunken driver crosses a lane and hits your car, see, I don't think that God made the decision for you to drive that day at that speed on that freeway. And I don't think God was evil and got the drunk guy to drink and run into you. It's like, I just think that's my belief. My belief is that whatever you want to call that power out there, it's neutral. So people always say, why do babies die? I don't know. See, I'm better than, so unrealistic expectations is when you have a child, you want that child to be happy and healthy its entire life. And you would like it to be happy and productive, and productivity and creativity is individually picked. So it is pretty interesting where we talked on unrealistic expectations, because this is where it comes from. It comes from our own personal saying that we want people in the world to be what we believe and think it should be. How, pardon my language, how fucking selfish. So
Well,
when
it's
you get involved
instinctively
in
in
trading or being an entrepreneur or even in a personal relationship, I was talking to Mom today when we were walking Dex and Leo. And I go, here's the problem. If you have a bad relationship, here's your problem right here. It's your unrealistic expectations on what you think your mate should do. We should have sex X amount of times. I gave you a flower, so you need to give me a candy bar. Well, I cleaned the dishes. It's your turn to clean the dishes. If you ever look at yourself being upset with another human being, including the people running for president, it's your unrealistic expectations of what you believe they should be fucking doing for you. And that's how you lose your job. Like one day you get up and you see a guy come in or a girl come in, they get a promotion that you thought should be yours. You have no idea of their education, their experience, nothing. You're just like, Craig just got here and he's already making more than me. Well, first of all, you don't know what the fuck he's making. So now all of a sudden you're mad that Craig with experience from another job or his education got him that position. So now what you're doing is your unrealistic expectations is you believe that the company should pay you and give you the same benefits that they gave Craig. So now you're pissed off at the owner, you're pissed off at the company. So now what you do every day is just as little as fucking human possible to get paid. And then you wonder why you're miserable and you're not going up. Wow. I said we would just talk about this subject, but
Well, but it is true, Robert, when you bring up unrealistic expectations. And okay, I'm just gonna take a little bit of back to the religion side. We talk about God, we talk about the master imaginator, master creator, but what about the people who are from, let's say, India, who do not have a God, and they have many gods? Or back to the Native Americans who did not have a God. They prayed to the earth, to Mother Earth.
Earth God, wind God, water God.
Exactly. And there's so many other beliefs out there that we feel that we need to impose on other people, and therefore we are right. Well, it may be right for you, but it's not right for them or somebody else.
And to add on to that right now, the thing that blows me away in every religion, and organized religion, is watching that organized religion really honestly beat the shit out of each other. Because see, if you're a Christian, you're not the kind of Christian that I believe you should be. And we see this all the time with even this whole thing. It's like, well, Matt, listen, we're not even going to move forward with our relationship unless you give me an apology, because you disrespected me and you made me feel a certain way. So you need to apologize. And Matt goes, wow, I didn't know I did that. I'm sorry. Can you please find it in your heart to forgive me? I'm not gonna, because that wasn't a real fucking apology. That wasn't heartfelt. I like, what? Well, you sort of said it in the wrong kind of tone. It's like, so, I mean, when you have someone of the same faith that are all fighting each other, because you got Baptists, and then you got regular Baptists, and then you got premium Baptists, and then you got Lutheran, and then you got Catholicism, and it's like there's 460,000 registered religions. How do I know that? Because they all fall with the IRS to not pay taxes.
Right.
So that's just in the United States. So it's like, wow, I didn't think that other Christians would throw other Christians under the bus. Wow, that's sometimes what some of them are known best for. And then people go, I don't know why people don't want to be Christians. No, they watch them. They watch them, doing the opposite of what Jesus told them to do. They're standing on the other side, holding signs up, telling everyone they're going to burn and go to hell. It's like, well, who wants to be like that? I thought Jesus was about love. Love yourself. Well, I don't love myself, so I'm going to trash another Christian.
Right.
She's wearing way too short of a dress to be a Christian. You see the trashy shit she's wearing?
Wasn't there some quotes too, and in there somewhere along the lines, like in my mind, from everything that I had read growing up, and just in general, it didn't seem like Jesus was a very pro-wealth kind of person. He just wasn't. So it's interesting to me how there's a lot of people that are pro-wealth and also pro-Jesus.
Yeah.
Because pro-Jesus,
I'll tell you what it is. I mean, there's
right?
even scripture in the Old Testament that says it's easier to pass through an eye of a needle than enter into the gates of heaven. And it was talking about wealthy people. So, there are people, I believe, that have accumulated a lot of wealth and blessings that also do a lot for humanity. Now, here's the problem. According to the rest of the people, it's never enough. It's not the right way. It's not the way that they thought it would be. So, and so, Mrs. Kroc will go down as one of the biggest philanthropy people on the planet. She gave away 44% of her income while she was alive. So after her husband died, by taxes, she gave away as much as she could. I last time I heard, it was like, in the $60 billion range. It's nuts.
It's crazy. Yeah.
And she never told nobody, and she didn't care. And I heard people that heard she gave money away, and the first thing it would say, yeah, but what about this group? Do you guys find that very disturbing that, these are people that hack, social media thing? Is like, hey, Terry and I have been married for 35 years. Well, we've been together for 42. And I'm going like, what the fuck is your problem, man? It's like, congratulations. Why do you got to hijack someone's deal? Or I don't believe in marriage. You know what I mean? I've been divorced 4 times. It's like no one can help themselves. There's this group of people.
I would say if you've been married 4 times and divorced, I don't think marriage believes in you. You know what I mean?
Well, you guys know, what I always say. It's like, what if you've had 4 bad relationships, there's a common denominator,
right?
And that's you. If I've been in a million companies and they haven't worked, I know something that's, so I'm the kind of guy that's just like, I really believe so. Matt, when you brought that up about wealth, you're absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's
just one of those things that always has rattled my mind, right? Because in the scheme of things, it was one of those moments that makes you really understand human beings, and that it all, in my mind, is very much up to human interpretation, no doubt, all the time, because we do it with everything, right? It's like one of the biggest things that used to really like bother it. It's not that it bothered me, I just couldn't wrap my brain around it, is this variable degree of sin that people have made up or created. There's no where they say this sin is worse than this one, or this one is less worse than this one. That's never written anywhere by God or by Jesus to say that that's the case. And yet, as human beings, we categorize sin based off of what we deem morally, which is our own moral code, right? What we deem morally good or bad. And this has changed through history. Used to be able to own slaves, can't own slaves anymore. That's
at the particular time, right?
Yeah.
Right, at the particular time that it was written. So when you have
women and people that are not white can't vote.
So you have that wasn't a possibility. I mean, that should Are you a person? No, you're 3/5 of a person.
So it doesn't
You remember
blow my
that? That goes
mind.
back to the slavery.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't blow my mind that people that eat bacon or consume shellfish or wear
Yeah.
clothing of multiple fabrics also are totally fine with believing that Jesus wanted you to be incredibly wealthy. And that's what he wanted for you. And that's the main reason. So what I'm saying is it's like anytime I've thought about, and I'm just picking Christianity because you guys are talking about it, but
Sure, sure.
it's always very apparent in my mind the further that I go that it's already a system that's set up for you to pick and choose, and we already do that. So that's when I always bring it to the next step. Why hate gay people if you're also going to eat shellfish?
It's
Because
bizarre.
if you think
It's
gay
like
people being gay is a sin, it's is equal as a sin as that lobster that you just ate,
Right.
right?
But who's to
God
say that
didn't.
that is actually the case? Because I mean, they are a person,
this
and
is
yet
this is
It's not, but
in
I'm
another
saying it's
in another
it's the
area they are
variable.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a variable. So
explain
what ends up
explain more,
happening?
Matt, because I just I love where
Yeah.
you're going.
Yeah. This is a great.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt. Yeah.
Well, it's just a variable that we add on to things based off of what we're taught and indoctrinated into. So if you went to the church of love, happiness, God is love, Jesus is love, or whatever, odds are your view and the ways that you share it are going to be from that place.
Of
As where if
course.
you've been indoctrinated into a place of utilizing it for hate or utilizing it to put a group of people down or to say this group of people isn't as important as that group because they're a different religion, whatever it may be, then obviously you are connecting to more the bad side of that. Now it has
Right.
both things, but the reality is that it's always fascinating to me that there's sides, and you were talking about this, that pick one or the other and completely don't acknowledge the other side of it
Right.
or have the lack of that. And I have to ask myself, why would you do that? If the belief itself is so incredibly important, why would you do that?
Trying to fit in.
Well,
Becoming part of the group that you feel more comfortable with.
Yeah, you show it. You show
exactly.
instead of building a relationship or whatever you believe that is,
Mhm.
you'd rather listen to somebody else tell you what your beliefs and morals are.
So for something that's supposed to be so personal to you, why do you farm it out to everybody else when it's supposed to be the most important and personal thing to you?
Lazy.
And power over others.
Yeah, and so it's an interesting thing because the more you start to deconstruct it, the more I went, there was a time in my life where I was like blown away by people that could hold this thought and say these things. Like believe in Jesus and love and all these things, but
Hey,
be
you
so
just
mean and
explained
cruel
to
to
me.
people.
You man, not to interrupt you. You just explained people to me.
I know. Well, that
You
was
just
when I was younger. It was
human
something that I dealt with
human.
a lot because
Yeah.
I was like, how can you say that you accept Jesus Christ as your savior and all these things, right? And still hate people with so much vitriol and so much disgust.
Yeah.
It's so counter to the acceptance and would never get you into the gates of heaven. Like that's not gonna.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive to the idea and the thought of what you're trying to do. So that's what's so interesting to me because when you say, oh, well, if you have certain people, and this goes for any belief, right? If you have a group of people that are saying another group is less than, this could be, hey, listen, you say that you're conservative, so then that makes you an idiot.
Right.
It's like, or if you're liberal, that makes you an idiot or a woke person or whatever it may be, right?
I was just going to bring up the whole politics angle of this too, because look where we're going with the.
It always goes
the
back to the
upcoming
human
election.
unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
So that the main point I'll get to, and then I'll pass it off to you guys, is
no, you're right. You're bringing. You're talking about unrealistic expectations, right?
I believe I am. So like
that's
the thing is like when you get to the space of it, it always comes down to unrealistic expectations, and that comes down to the expectations we either make ourselves or someone gives us as a framework to guide us, right? And so when we're in this space where we're looking at a group of people and go, they just don't work hard enough. That younger generation just doesn't work hard enough. And then the younger generation goes, I've never seen my parents go on a proper vacation and enjoy their lives.
They're
They've
never
worked.
around.
They've worked the whole
They're
time I've
never
been
around. I raised myself.
So that work-life balance to them, surprise, surprise, you might have a whole generation that goes, I don't want that. I'd much rather have what my grandparents had, which was getting in the motorhome and going on vacation. That was much more the generation before. Leisure
Right.
time and retirement was huge. Doesn't exist much for the baby boomer generation.
Right.
Right? At least as much. So then now you have a whole nother generation going, I really would like some leisure time. Like I'm working 2 jobs. Like leisure time is exciting to me. So then they don't want to be part of the system that doesn't allow them to have that.
Well, Matt, when
right?
because you and I are close and we're open to talking to each other about anything. When you told me one time that, wow, we live in a society where, being minimalist and thinking about traveling the world. And, if there's, unfortunately, because of the way the economy is, there's people that if they're not living with their parents, they're living with a bunch of roommates. And
Yeah. That's
to
probably
have
just
things,
because your parents are shit and you can't live with them.
yeah.
Like that's, you don't have a
And
choice.
so now all of a sudden you're like, okay, I don't want to. I used to say in presentation years ago, Craig's probably heard me say this, that I said, now and I don't even know if this is true. I just said, now there's a Generation Y. And Generation Y is very simply, they look at their parents and their grandparents and their aunt and uncles, and they're like, why? Why would I
Right.
want to bust my ass that hard to get into my 50s and have them retire me early because they can hire 2 young people at graduation, and do my job. And now I don't get my benefits, I don't get my gold watch or nothing. And it's like, it's obvious that companies like Walmart that, when they made the decision that, wow, we don't have to pay benefits to people that are not full time. So why don't we just hire twice as many people and make them all play part-time? And then what we'll do is we'll teach them courses in Walmart on how to be able to get governmental assistance. And it's like, for a for-profit company, that's
Which
bullshit,
also
That
gets
is like,
government subsidies.
yeah.
So that's one of those interesting things when you start to really unravel it. All it does is piss you off because like when you start to unravel taxes and think how many times your $1 is taxed on that you make
Oh God.
before,
Man.
like whether
Yeah.
it's, I don't have to go through the whole thing because we all know it here, but your money is taxed multiple times instead of just once, which should be against the law, but it's not. So
No.
it's
Yeah.
Well,
That $1 ends up being 10 cents.
exactly when it
I
gets
never,
taxed 90% of the time and everything it
Right.
goes through,
yeah.
right?
When
Yeah.
we're
And then it's
watching,
backed by nothing. Let's go back to that.
yeah. But we're watching. It's like, listen, if you need some more money, just print it. And
Well,
it's
that's where it's
That's what they're
become.
doing.
That's why when we got off the gold standard, let's go ahead and print it. And then a lot of the economists are
it's
saying,
funny
They
because
said, wait,
now-
can't we just print more? I'm confused.
Yeah,
Print a lot more.
but
And they're
then
like,
where
I guess
goes-
we can.
where does the value come from at
you
that
know
point?
who I haven't seen in a long time.
It's valueless. And then it turns into like the Venezuela stuff where they're
Yeah,
like making bags
yeah.
out of it.
Yeah. You remember he used to be like the conservative side, but he was a stand-up comedian, pretty funny. I haven't seen him in a while. Was Dennis Miller.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and he probably has a podcast, but I remember
Probably.
he was talking about how progressive he was, and a lot of people that grow up in the arts and stuff like that are that way. And then all of a sudden he said, then I got married, and then I had kids, and then I bought a nice place for my wife and my kids to be. And he says, it's weird that overnight, he goes, I wanted them protected and I wanted them taken care of. And he goes, it's crazy how my mindset was everything for everyone. And then when I had some stuff of value, including relationships, there's some people out there that think that they can come in and just take my house or hurt my wife and my children. And he goes, that's when your mind switches to the conservative side and going, listen, my taxes better take care of my ass. You better protect me in my home. And I don't need other people taking my shit. And he goes, so I remember him saying in a comic routine, and it was Believe it or not, what's that thing where the president has all the people that come in and they tell jokes?
It's like it's a
Oh, the correspondence dinner?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dennis Miller one time said, okay, I have my checkbook. This is telling you how long ago this was. He goes, my checkbook is out. Matt, you froze again?
No, I'm still here. It's just my camera.
Okay,
so
cool. So Dennis Miller said, listen, I got my checkbook. I have the money. I want to pay off the national debt, the United States national debt. I want you to tell me who I write this fucking check out to. And a whole room of the smartest, supposedly, people on the planet went, who would that be written to?
There have been a couple of those that came up, Robert. I mean, I remember when Dennis Miller did say that, but there was like one or two others. I think even Bill Maher had said, look, just let's get all the rich guys together.
Yep.
Write a check and take care of taking down the debt, the national debt.
Warren Buffett in one of his newest interviews said that. He said,
Yeah.
I could solve the national debt. And he says, change all the laws in America with two thoughts. One is called term limits. He said, so anyone that serves for American public, they do not get raises because they get to vote for raises. They get raises based on what the public says they served.
Oh, yes, I remember hearing that.
And then he says, so no one's going to be in office very long if it doesn't pay, right? So this goes
or
back
if they don't balance the budget.
Right,
that was the other one.
That's
Is that the other one you're bringing
up?
up?
If you don't balance the budget, you don't get a paycheck. And then the other one he said is you take all the wealthiest people in the world, and he says you divide it between all the wealthiest people in the United States, and if they all gave 4% of their income that they made that year, the debt's gone. And he said, everyone that I know that makes billions of dollars wouldn't even know that it happened. You just take 4% of their net worth and say, we're paying down the debt. Let's do it among these 1,000 people. And it's like, it's like when we see the Forbes income go up and down. These people do not care that, someone made a stupid statement or smoked weed on a Joe Rogan show. And then someone says Elon Musk lost $17.2 billion. And he goes, what's 17 billion minus 290 billion? What is that again? I don't really fucking care.
Yeah, I mean, in the whole scheme of things, how much percent is it? And yet we have people that are sitting there making a big deal about, okay, I remember, I think it was in the last couple of years, they were saying, let's change the tax brackets. I think it was part of the Biden campaign. And even Bernie Sanders, I think, was even saying this. It's like, okay, you pay lower taxes if you earn this amount of money. You pay a medium set amount of taxes if you earn this amount of money. And if you're in the upper, which only about 2 or 3% of the population in the United States earns over 1.4 billion. Now, forgive me if my numbers are not correct. I'm sorry, but I'm just laying it out because this is the way it was. You pay this amount in taxes. Everything will balance out, and then we are able to work together. And then, this inequality that I know Bernie has been big about, Bernie Sanders, this inequality of the rich class and the poor class becomes a little bit easier, and we have a better middle class. So it's a matter of sharing the wealth. Yes, if a person can afford to pay more, fine, because 4% in the lower class is way much more than 4% in the upper class. Yeah. And so, there's been a lot of experiments and people talking about whether or not, okay, we're going to just have a straight tax and this is it, or we have
a flat tax amount.
A flat tax. Yeah, we have a flat tax. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for.
Wasn't it Ross Perot that, man, I watched him speak about the flat tax, and the first thing that he said is he goes, do you know how much money goes under the table on this planet? And he's like, and he's going,
you guys remember the Panama Papers? You remember when we heard they were all hiding all the
God.
money and then it just disappeared? You guys remember that?
Oh yeah.
And there was a guy that actually got fired at some Swiss bank years ago. And he got fired and didn't get promoted, and he just happened to leave with a backup file of every person's name that was in the Swedish bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Slip that bad boy to the IRS, and I remember this is years ago. And get
Oh,
this,
that's
you guys,
right. That was big.
you know what the IRS said? The IRS said that there was going to be a forgiveness clause, that if you knew your name was on this list, that you could come to us and we'll figure out what you can pay before we come get you. And so, can you imagine seeing that on a headline in a newspaper out of the news? It's like, listen, if you had any banks in Switzerland, I just want you to know we got your name. And if you voluntarily come in, we'll take care of it. And if you don't, we'll come get you. You'd be calling your accountant pretty quick, and your lawyers is like, I guess we need to set an appointment.
I
Or
was
try to
looking
find
too.
that offshore island that you can try to reinvest in
Yeah,
real
well,
fast.
people don't like look up history also, and like one of those things that I had always heard, right, is like if you guys were to pick a list of like the best presidents ever or the best times in the country for like economically, right? Like maybe coming out of the Great Recession, right after World War II, we were just like churning, right? What do you guys think the tax rate was back then?
It was low.
So if you made over $1 million, the tax rate in 1942 was 75% of your income.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah. So like that's something that blows people's minds because you think back then that the tax rates were lower. That's not true. They were much
oh,
higher back
wow.
then than they were now. The difference is that they had what FDR called the New Deal, which didn't end up happening because he died. But the New Deal is that they're going to take all this money, right, and use it to rebuild the country, like the roads, the
Mm.
infrastructure of the country, all these things.
Yeah, actually,
And there were those different projects too, the
I
TVA,
always
Tennessee
tell, yeah, I
Valley
always,
Authority, and
Well,
yeah,
even a
I
lot of this
agree
stuff
with
is
you,
like where
Matt.
PBS came from and some other things too, right?
right.
But when people think back to like, they'll
Medicare,
go, damn, like I
yeah.
wonder why the country was just churning back then and like doing so well, right? And then you look at the tax brackets and the tax ranges and where the tax money was going, you're like, oh, I see why it was actually like going into infrastructure and build. See, like that's the thing is like I saw today, the whole like joke like Kamala Harris is a communist, right? And she's gonna give everybody free healthcare. Could you fucking imagine? But like and it's like, geez, wouldn't it be great if we did have free healthcare for the money that we were just talking about being taxed? Wouldn't that be great? And
Yeah.
people go, not my taxes. I'm not paying for that. And it's like, yeah, but don't you know that like your tax money goes to paying for the un uh
Uninsured.
uninsured people anyway?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Or
that
Social
those numbers
Security
get
or
to be made
protection
up.
or whatever.
Like they get to
Yeah.
make up what those numbers are and take as much money of yours as they want. There's no system in place to like stop them. So when people go, I don't want my money being paid for healthcare, it is right now, and they get to say how much. You don't even get to
Yeah.
choose what it is. Similar with like the
I
military, right?
heard, this is a little bit of a different turn. And again, we talk about a lot of subjects,
Well, I was
but,
gonna say I'm running. So no.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But here's one of the things that people right now are saying, that, you get a person that gets into this country according to whoever standards illegally, right? They're not a documented citizen. And so then apparently, I don't know this to be true, but the United States system now takes care of them. So if you're in California, you don't have to be an American citizen to get a driver's license. You get medical care, you get education for your kids, you get all this stuff. And we always hear these jokes that say, well, I'd rather not be American and just be an illegal alien because I get more benefits as an illegal alien than I do as an American. And my thoughts are, no, what we do for people that are not in this country, we should be doing for Americans.
Yeah, I think
Like,
that's the big mistake is like you're so right because I think people get so debating and irritated on the subject without like taking steps back and asking why this is what we're talking about. It's like why are we talking about immigrants and what they're getting and immigration and all these things when like all kids in this country don't get free lunch, or the
Right.
education system's fucked up and they're not getting a good education. There's so many other things that we could be talking about that actually affect the long-term
Yeah.
ability for this country to function and become better and stronger
How does
that
the
are being
United States
ignored for the
do
people
this?
that are coming in the country illegally.
Right.
They're more interested in those people than the fucking like kids that are actually in the country. Like
Right.
it's upsetting. It is. And it's frustrating because I think like immigration is a issue that we've had and will have forever.
Ever.
It's not something new. It's not something old. It's just something that exists. When you have borders, you have immigration. If you have more opportunity, then immigration is going to be larger, especially if the countries that you border have less opportunity. So being aware of that means you need to set up a system in place to bring over and make it easy to immigrate for the smartest and the best outside of the country, whether that's the people that are sitting on the border or the people that are flying over or coming by boat or anything. And I think no blanket on either direction is ever going to work for that. So if you say blanket accept everybody or blanket don't accept everybody and deport everybody, you're going to hurt everyone regardless of one of those choices.
Well, someone's going to feel the effect of it. Yeah. And that's the hard part, is trying to figure out the balance. I mean, because of the way that we are right now, and especially with our little red and blue teams here, it's like, okay, here is something. Is it going to be for the benefit of me? Is it going to be for the benefit of everybody? Shouldn't it be for the benefit of the country? Because that was the whole reason for bringing the United States into life, was let's make it the best for everybody, not just for one group or another because of whatever their belief is. And I'm not going to use the R word here, because that is what it is, because you can always use religion, but then you have politics. Are you Republican? Are you Democrat? Are you independent? Are you black, blue, green with yellow polka dots?
I feel like a lot of, not interrupt you, but I feel like a lot of conservative people too, if you said to them, oh, I'm religious and liberal, they probably wouldn't even believe that you're religious. They'd be like, you're lying.
Exactly.
Even though those two things can absolutely exist. They don't counter each other in any way. But I think that's
absolutely they don't.
Because it's like, well, you're not as religious as you need to be, right?
Right.
Or else
that's perspective.
You're not religious. You're not religious according to my beliefs and morals.
Yeah.
We've talked about perspective before.
I heard
which are
recently,
blurred based off of the situations that you're in.
Yes.
Right? I heard recently that Joe Rogan made a mess up and basically said that he loves what Kennedy is doing, and he looked at him as a really, really smart guy. So then I guess Trump threw him under the bus, and everybody threw him under the bus. And I thought it was pretty funny because I seen a short post, and I don't know if it's true, because it could be an AI generated. And he goes, he says, so I have a certain beliefs. And he goes, some of them and most of them are way out there. But he says, some of my thoughts of why things should be would probably be considered very, very progressive, while others are considered really, really conservative. And he says, here's the problem with the world. I can have my thoughts of what I think I can.
Which is so weird because like but I think that comes from like that consistency of like hammering into people's heads that it's all or nothing, right? And it's like
there it is.
It really, and that is an unrealistic expectation, that it is all or nothing. One of the things that I think you learn as you get older, and I've learned as I've gotten older, is that life is unfair for everybody regardless of where you start, but it is unfair for some more than it is others. It's okay to acknowledge that. I think that's something you need to acknowledge.
Yeah.
If you don't acknowledge that, then how are you ever going to build a society of any forms of equality if you're not willing to admit that some people get, like, I was born with you as my dad and Terry as my mother. You were not, you didn't get the same opportunity that I have, right? And so to say, oh, well, if I accomplish this or that, or certain things happen in my life, that to not acknowledge that there's a form of nepotism there based off of my upbringing or the things that I have at my disposal.
But isn't that someone casting judgment on you because you're parents?
Well, no, but I think it's good to acknowledge it. What I'm saying is people do not want to acknowledge any forms of that because they're so individualistic that they're unwilling to admit that their lineage or that the people that helped them get to where they were there. And so you can have people that are billionaires or whatever go, I'm a self-made billionaire. That can't be further from the truth. You know what I mean? Like, but it's because individually they're not willing to be humble enough and admit that there was, and I've said this before, you push the boulder quite a ways up the hill. It's my goal to push it further than you did, but not to let it roll all the way back down and start over. You know, and I think like people have a hard time admitting that. They have a hard time admitting that I am the, oh my God, I'm gonna sound like Kamala Harris right now. I'm the consistency of everything that came before me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, we are the sum of all the events that we have experienced through our lives. And so that's,
we didn't just fall from a coconut tree, right?
No, like absolutely not. So, whatever training you got, Matt, was, that was what you experienced in your growth stage. And you happen to be the son of Robert. Okay. So what Robert had in the beginning when he was a child, up to the point where he had you, up to the point where you are now, that's all influence. And I'm going to say that's the A plus B equals C factor that I've kind of shared in other podcasts, where you are the sum of your experiences to this point in time. What you do with what you have and what you've experienced now is all up to you.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
And again, so, I think that, we could finish off this podcast by just saying this one concept is that if you're an individual and you got a 400 trillion chance in one of being alive at this time in the world, if you're that unique and that individual, then why do you have these emotions that someone's doing it faster than you? The whole concept of compare-itis. It's like I have the genetic structure that's unique to me that I never had the thoughts or the desire of being a figure skater in the Olympics.
Right.
It just, so if someone has that and they're inspired by a figure skater and they become a gold medal figure skater, it's like, I know I heard this from Abraham Hicks. When you're in the right place in life, when each and every day you're celebrating and other people's wins, regardless of what they are. To not be lonely, you know what I mean? To actually have, some kind of spark of hope. And it's like, so, I see unrealistic expectations when we see people do anything in their life. And some people, I've even seen the religious term used where they're just God gifted. You know what I mean? They God gifted talents, right? They don't have Hindu talents. They don't have Allah talents. They have, they don't have, see what I mean? They don't have Buddha talents. It's like, no, wait a minute. There's just some people that I believe got the freedom in their life. Me, it was survival, total survival. I figured out my gifts in life because it makes me emotional when I say this, because I was doing my best to try to fit in. That's all I needed. I didn't know what my gift was. I didn't know what it was in my life that I could learn to accelerate to, where the rest of the world would go, that's not a bad fucking guy right there. That guy, and so it took one person to give me a word of encouragement and as a teenager, and it was like 13, it was like right in there. And he just, is an uncle that shows up once every other year. And he just looked at me and he goes, wow, Bobby. He says, did you build that go-kart? I said, yes, sir. And he's going, wow, whose snowmobile is this? And I said, mine. And he knew what his sister was going through, my mom. And he's like, why do you got a snowmobile? And I said, because I got a paper route. And I found a guy that had a snowmobile in his backyard, and I asked him what he was going to do with it. And he says, I'm too lazy to take it to the junkyard. If you get it out of here, it's yours. So that's where I got my bikes and my motorcycles and my go-karts. And I was, hey, well, you got any junk in your garage that I can have? So now I got a bunch of junk, and now I can use all those parts from that junk to make stuff, not only for my own pleasure, but to serve other people. And so that's where I got the meaning of life for me. I didn't look for it outside somebody else. And I maybe I'm weird, but I never ever thought, I remember people saying negative stuff about the people that lived on Snob Hill. And they're like, the people that live up there, on Snob Hill, they got acres and acres of land. They got, multiple cars. And I don't know why. I guess I'm a weirdo, because I just looked at them and I went, they busted their ass. Somebody busted their ass. Now, it could have been a generation from a generation that busted their ass. But I never looked at someone that go, well, I guess whatever, I don't know. At that time, I wasn't, I never went to church. I never hung around any people that went to church, so I was just like, why some people got it and some people don't? And so when I got a little older in life, I started using those rules for the wrong reason. So then I hung around somebody that indoctrinated me and says, one thing that wealthy people have that poor people don't? And I went, what? And he goes, insurance. And I said, what do you mean? And he says, well, if someone gets something damaged or something stolen, they call the insurance company and they give it back to them. And I go, why would you tell me that? And he goes, because if they got shit that we want, we go get it. So that was now a Robin Hood thought, right?
You're right.
It was like, take from the rich and give to the poor. And there was like what we called a street justice. I was hanging around kids that their parents didn't give a shit if they came home. They didn't even know they were gone. So when the lights go down and everyone has to get home, remember that, Craig? When the street lights come on,
I had that too.
It's time to get your ass.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I didn't have to go home. So now you think about all the kids that went home because they had a curfew. Now the kids on the street are the kids that the parents don't give a shit about. And you do not need to be outside after 10 and everyone's buckled down without some shit happening.
Right.
And that's what they would always say. I didn't know that parents thought that, but it's like, listen, if you're out of the house at a certain time, you now are around a group of people that just have a different way of thinking. And it's called street justice. And so then street justice turned into prison justice. See, there's all of a sudden all my
it's weird how those two transition right into each other.
Just right into it. And it's like, listen, I could go get a job, or I could steal stuff, or I could sell stuff that's illegal. You know what I mean? It's pretty interesting where you see people go down a path like that and you wonder, well, how did they do it? Well, they're surviving. That's all they're doing, is surviving. And a little time in prison for me is, I thought, I believed that I had common sense. Someone told me I had common sense, and that was the most uncommon thing in the world. So I looked at that as my gift. So now, if I got common sense, I need to do it like Luke Skywalker instead of Darth Vader. And so now I hung around a different group of people. But in everything in life, there's always these people. And God, the thought just downloaded to me is Mr. Rogers all the time. Look for the helpers.
Right.
See, what the world wants to tell us is the people that make above average income are bad people. Yes, some of them are. A majority are not. There was a book that was really famous when I was young called The Millionaire Next Door. And here's a guy that's in a farm, got a junkyard, got a construction company. He's third generations, and you have no clue that person has millions of dollars in the bank. And I tell this story all the time when I first got involved in network marketing, because I got my first $10,000 check. And my mentor, Bill, looked at me and he says, Robert, do you know of anyone that you could go to, this is back in the day, where you could sign the check over to them and say, pay to the order and put their name on it, and they sign it. And now that's the only person that can sign that check. And he says, go to somebody you know that has money and get them to sign this check over to them and ask them if you can hang on to it for a month, but they give you the $10,000 because you endorsed it over to them. And the first person that I thought of was David Wynn. To show you how silly I was as a young kid, I thought his name was David Nugent. I'm dyslexic. I called him Nugent his whole life. And I finally got old enough where some lady sports on TV on the Today Show, and they go, this is Tammy Wynn. And I was like, that name spelled just like Nugent. So I know right now all the Vietnamese people are just laughing their ass off, right? So I went to him because this guy always had 3 or 4 cars. Cars would come in. We'd give him the diagnosis. You burned up your motor or whatever. You blew a head gasket. It's going to cost $1,200 to fix. And they go, it's not worth $1,200. And he'd look right at him and just say, hey, you going to pay to haul this car out of here, or you want me to give you $200 for it? You're going to give me $200 for a piece of shit car? I'll take it. And David would grab those parts like I did with bikes and everything. And I always seen him flipping cars. So I went up to David, told him this story, and he goes, yeah, no problem. So we walked into the bank. He's wearing a Toyota auto mechanics uniform like I used to wear. We walk into this bank, and as soon as we walked in, I seen a bank manager step up, and he went all the way to the end of the counter, and he said, David, not Mr. Wynn. He said, David. And he smiled, and I walked over. He pulled the closed window sign away. And he goes, how can I help you? And he goes, my friend here wants to cash this check, but I just want to give him the money that's on the check, and then he's going to endorse it. And so I endorsed it. He signed it. Now I can't do anything with it. And, they gave me the $10,000 cash. And then I looked at him and I went, how much money do you have? And he looked at the bank manager and went, he spun the monitor around. He had $2.3 million in his account, and he worked as an auto mechanic just like me. Oh, Matt can't hear you.
Well, I was going to say too, it's like, it's insane too, because there's so many people out there that will say, like, if you're young and you can learn to invest, the compounding of that will make you a millionaire by the time you're in your 40s or 50s, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because what you're saying is so true. And I think that also comes from like the other end of it, right? It's like, how could you have a bunch of people, not to go back to the like politics aspect, but how could you have a bunch of people saying, let's tax all the wealthy people, and yet these are the people that are wealthy as well? It's like an interesting duality, right? It's almost like, well, why are you talking? I guess that would make sense if you wanted to do that, but why haven't you taken the steps to do that then? That's a little odd why you wouldn't go through those steps.
You're right, Matt. I took the 26-year-old mentality at that time in my environment that I grew up. And my first thought was, why do you have over $2 million in your bank account and working as an auto mechanic? And he goes, it's handed down. He says, the way I grew up, he said, my ancestors worked for that money and they pass it back and they pass it to the oldest son. And he said, there's no way that I could dishonor my grandparents and my father by digging into that account if I'm available to work.
Mm.
That money is for generations. Now, I know then I found out he had multiple homes. And his job is to make that bigger for the next generation, not to sit on it and blow it. And so the only joke that we said is I go, well, I hope your kids are not too Americanized.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, They're not. He said even if it went into a trust fund, they get it at certain ages. And so it's like if you can work and be productive to put into this fund that other people did, why wouldn't you do it? But imagine how, like you guys talked about, Matt, a little bit, and Craig, where, sometimes people give a big deal about entitlement, right? Well, when he went to get a loan for his first car or for his first home, it probably was easier for him because of generations before him. It's like your dad died and I see this account with $2 million in it and you want to get a loan against this $2 million? Yes, Mr. Wynn. I guarantee you.
Right. But he acknowledged that to the point that he looked at it and went, oh, it's my job. And you see this, there's a reason that there's certain companies or certain spaces or things that are passed down or whatever it may be and continue to grow from generation to generation, right? And then there's groups like even you've shared before, like Warren Buffett's kids, right? Where they're like, I don't really have an interest in doing.
I want to teach
the
people
Waltons
how to
are
farm.
that way too. I mean,
right. I don't really have an interest
entitlements.
in running it, so let's get someone else to run it.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things that I think, like, until we can start to understand each other a little bit more and be more humble and honest, it's just going to become worse and worse until we do that. Because like, if you're looking at all wealthy people or all poor people as a mistake or something, like both sides do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
No surprise, there's no middle anymore. Like and I said, no surprise, there's no middle anymore. And you could just add any to the sides of that: politics, religion, wealth inequality.
Everything's an extreme now. Everything is such an extreme now. There's no neutral.
So if you're poor, it's like, get up off your ass and work. And then if you're wealthy and maybe you got to that space because of nepotism or because of luck or similar situations, now you have to make up this whole persona of how you did it by yourself. Because, I can't let anyone see me as someone that's benefited from the help of my peers or from the help of my friends or family
or something
like
that. Right.
Like, God forbid, you know what I mean? Like, that's the case. Like, and it's weird because that's more like modern day than it is in the past, I think. Yeah. But I also think it's a lot easier now to kind of like make up your own story as you go along, because people don't really fact check your shit anymore.
No.
So it's like you could be in a space where you could show up to a place and tell everyone that you're and this is a hilarious one, right? Because now that Hannah's into more trading and day trading and stuff, it's like if you went in and you told someone what I do for a living is day trading, that could mean that they're broke or a multimillionaire.
Well, Craig knows that. Craig knows that as a struggling
actor.
Oh,
actors,
absolutely. I mean, and it's feast or famine.
People, hey, I'm an actor.
But at least with acting, you could be like, well, what have you been in?
Yeah.
Yeah. You could say, though, with acting, you could be like, well, what have you been in? And then if you haven't been in anything big, then maybe you're not that big of an actor, right?
Right.
Well, and it also depends on, it also depends on the level that you're at. I mean, there are people that are quite well off on the stage that don't really do well on the screens, and vice versa.
Character actors too.
Yeah.
Like people
watched,
that are really good
on an airplane to Budapest. I watched it. I tell people, I love documentaries, but they had a documentary on there about the owner of Starbucks and Howard Schultz or
no, that's right.
That's it.
And it was, I loved it, man. I just loved it because I learned so much from this Well, it wasn't a documentary. I apologize. It was a masterclass. It was him doing a masterclass. And he said that, I forget the year that it started. A lot of people don't know that Starbucks coffee started like in the 60s or 70s, right?
Really?
He's a pretty old guy. And he said it didn't take off until he opened his first Starbucks in LA. And he says the reason that it took off is because everybody now had a place where they could be a screenplay or a writer. This is where they...
And how many people go there because of the culture surrounding
So he
that
created an
Starbucks.
environment.
And that's the whole idea is, everybody
Yeah.
gets together. All right, you know what? Let's go over to Starbucks. Boom. And especially with the computers that you now have, you can just log right on in and make it your little mini office if you'd like. And it's right there.
That
It's
is
almost
hilarious,
on every
isn't it?
corner.
I was gonna say, no surprise.
And you
we
can have
worked
a
in there.
coffee. You can be there for as long as you want. But he created a culture. And that's where Starbucks, it's not so much the coffee, but it was the culture that he created surrounding the coffee that has made the difference in how Starbucks succeeded.
We used to call it $5, and it's probably more.
Robert,
than that
you're
now.
muted.
Oh yeah, no, I can
What?
still hear him. I can still
Matt?
hear him, Craig.
It used to be called
hello?
$5. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think Craig
Well,
might have
maybe
had
that's
something
me
happen.
then, because I all of a sudden lost audio.
So listen to this. Starbucks started
ahead.
in 1971. Craig?
Yeah,
Okay.
Got it?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm back. That was
Okay.
Yeah.
That was I actually hear it chopping on all of us. It must be a clue that we're starting to enter the matrix. So maybe we.
Well, I was gonna say that's the funny thing about it is my stuff keeps crashing every single time I start talking. So
Yeah, that was weird. I didn't touch anything or whatever. But anyway, so we're back. We got audio.
We're talking about a bunch of stuff that might be controversial. So it's like it was founded in 1971.
Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw the original one, which is over in Seattle.
Yeah.
And that's still that place is so busy, even in the, didn't matter what day it was. People want to go and they want to get a coffee from the original one in Seattle, which is across from the fish market.
So
Anyways, go ahead.
I love hearing success stories like that. So, I just tell everybody it's like, as you look at things and things upset you because some people are doing faster than you, or you don't know why people are getting results better than you. And, you're fearing a little bit of FOMO. You guys got to understand that's all just your mentality, your thoughts, your emotions really messing with you. That's all it is. So if you see people winning and you're going like, I need to do this and I got to get in it, and then you get in it, and then you're going through this frustration thing of I can't do this. This is not working. This is not happening fast enough. Just Craig probably can find the video and post it, but I did a video that I'm still pointing people today is how to sabotage your life, and how to sabotage your life is allowing your thoughts and your emotions, and you just need the whole world to just be like you want it to be. That's the problem. So the people that are upset as I'm going into this next level of my life is they're like, this needs to be fucking easier. All right. Well, some people found my link online, clicked on it, bought it, hooked it up, and then posted that they are already in profit. Why is that their fault? So see, people see someone that actually went, wow, I can do this, and they had no trouble with the sign-up process.
Like if you get frustrated by other people's success, then you have a problem. In general, I'll just say that, like
general.
If you really need to reevaluate what the fuck you're doing or how you're feeling, if seeing other people succeed makes you pissed off.
Yep. That's when I heard that my first it was what is it called? Anyway, Abraham Hicks's Craig, I got that audio on our website, Money and the Law of Attraction or something with Abraham.
Yeah, I found the self-sabotage. I'm posting it right now in the chat, and I'll also post that one. Yes, go right ahead.
And so when I first listened to it, there was so many things in that tweaked me. It's the best of the Hickses, right? And that's exactly what she said, Matt. She said, whenever you see someone having something that you don't have, and it brings up something other than a celebration and joy, you're still resisting.
Yeah.
You're still resisting because you're upset that other people are getting and having stuff that you don't think they should have. And so this is really, really crazy when it comes to money, because everyone wants to be financially free, but all they do is bitch and complain about people that are financially free. So it goes against your
Yeah.
thinking. It's like, how can you become something that you despise? There it is. How can you become, well, technology and AI is so simple for Matthew. Yeah, he's been doing it since he could type on a keyboard. He's got
Yeah,
a
like
he's
up
got
until
a,
like
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago,
he's
my
got a few
handwriting
million
sucked.
hours in
Yeah.
creation on
I had
with
to force
digital.
myself to become better at handwriting because it sucks so bad because I typed everything. I was like born with a keyboard. So I would have to fill out pieces of paperwork and I'm like, Jesus, I can't even read this. And so I'm like, okay, I don't want to I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be seen as an idiot, right? So I take the time, I buy myself a notebook and I start going to town. A, B, just practicing my handwriting. So it's well off enough that I don't think about it anymore, right?
You guys want to
And
see confidence? You guys want to see confidence in Terry, my wife? You say, you got an envelope? I want to write down an address. And she'll look at you and go, you want me to do it? Letter.
that's
Oh
Hannah.
my
Hannah's handwriting is
God.
much better than mine.
She writes, and you're like, you should get paid to do that. You know,
Mhm.
her cursive is just like,
To
man,
be a
it's
cartographer.
Well,
Yeah.
it's what you, whether
what
you
is
think you
that?
can or you think you can't. You're right. It's you know, this is a talent and this is what they have. And so you work, this is the whole idea about working together with others on
Yes.
their talents and making the best of it. The unrealistic expectation of me doing everything is definitely a problem
Yeah,
because
I
you
know
can't.
I know I suck at things.
Yeah.
And you know why?
That's
I know I suck at them because I don't want to do them and I don't feel like doing them. It's like I'm not doing that. So now I call it trade knees now. So all these people, yeah, I hook Josh Wagel up. Yeah, that's
Yes.
what I'm saying now. It's like people are like, "Hey, how's this work?" I go, "I don't know trade knees. I don't know anything about trading. I know how to tap something on my phone." And then people are pissed off. Well, when does the taps come? Uh, I I don't know. It's an expert doing it. Maybe he should be or she should be allowed to do it when they feel like their expertise is right.
right.
What unrealistic expectations? I got in. I want to tap and trade. I need it right now. I know you guys have been doing this for 8 years, but do a fucking trade right now.
Yeah. Follow our
It's
Telegram and
like,
you'll see
Well,
that
it's
and
all over the
they got up in
place.
the morning after a cup of coffee and in different time zones and went, not today. Not today. Might be like a sailor, right? Gets up in the morning, storming at night, looks at the waves. You want to go sailing? Not today. Not today. No, I want to go sailing. Terry watches that below deck. And it's like,
yeah.
can you imagine paying 20, 30, $40,000 for a chartered yacht? Fly all the way to Italy or the Caribbean? Get off? We can't go out. What do you mean? We can feed you some good food and we're gonna entertain you the best of our abilities, but we can't leave the harbor. Yeah, does that suck? Yeah. Do I get my money back? No.
Yeah. Or when you're on a cruise, same thing. Just,
Yeah. So
or when you even travel, because we set the expectation of, okay, let's see, when's the best time to go to Europe? Okay, we'll do this. When's the best time to go let's say to Italy? Like I actually experienced this last year when I went to Rome. You think, okay, perfect time, great. We arrive in Rome, it's 105 degrees, and we're walking around Rome, which is hot, hot, hot. And this was just after Europe had the Cerberus effect covering this whole area where it was like, at least here in Southern California, we had 2 weeks at one time several years ago where it was nothing less than 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And they experienced that. They weren't ready for
The
it.
heat dome.
The heat dome, exactly.
The heat dome is right now hurting 13 million people in the United States are under a heat dome. It's like,
Yeah. How can you plan for something like
Breaking
that?
news.
And you don't know. Or if a hurricane hits, Florida or, the East Coast, they can do the best that they can to track it. But how do you know that it's not going to slam into Jacksonville, or it's going to say, you know what, I'm going to give Jacksonville a break. I'm going to just go up the coast a little bit, and then I'm going to hit North Carolina.
right.
You don't know. You have to deal with it with what is happening at that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say, God works in mysterious ways. No, I'm just But I love and appreciate you guys. This has been a great podcast.
Yeah, it has.
I just
It
was
really,
noticing
really
it's
has.
coming up at the top of the hour here. So if you guys want to close it out, let's finish it off here.
We
You guys
talked
have anything
enough.
else to say?
Go ahead, Craig.
Nope. I think
Close it out.
we're set. So you can follow Robert Hollis at roberthollis.com. Also, if you'd like to join our exclusive communities, the Inner Circle and Imaginators, you can join us by going to roberthollis.com/join to register. There will be lots of great exclusive content, and you'll be able to participate in our special breakthrough sessions to help you move up to the next level. Please don't forget to like and share this video on YouTube and with others. It'll help us grow our community and reach those with ears to hear. Got to give shout outs, of course, to our amazing trio of people. Well, minus me, because I've been doing all the talking, but I got to give shout out to Matt
shout
Hollis
yourself
for being
out.
our executive producer. Matt Hollis, thank you so very much for being
Thank
our
you,
executive
Craig.
producer and our gentleman behind the scenes. And of course, our GPS to success, our friend, our mentor, Robert Hollis. Bless you, my friend.
Mastermind.
Yes. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us today
Yes.
on Unlimited Wisdom. And we look forward to seeing you next time when we come back. Please, until next time, my name is Craig Jackman. Be good to yourselves, be cash, and bye for now.
Thank
Love
you,
you, Craig.
everybody. Thanks for watching. Love you
you, Matt.
guys.
Take care.
See you
Bye-bye.
next time. Bye. We good? Let's see.